Have you ever found yourself sitting with a notebook or your notes app, writing down a list of single English words? If you do this, you might actually be hurting your English progress. I know you want to build your vocabulary, but memorizing isolated words is a trap. It leads to collocation errors. And if you don't know what those are, stick around because I'm going to explain them very soon. These errors are a massive giveaway that you aren't a local, but today we're fixing the most common ones so you can level up your English. Let's get started. Chapter 1, Collocation errors. Before we look at the specific words, we need to understand what we are actually fixing. In my head, I like to think of certain words as being in a partnership. They are best friends. They belong together. If you split them up and try to pair them with a different word, it sounds weird. It's not always a grammar mistake, but it's a breakdown in the natural rhythm of the language. I like to use a metaphor for this. It's like wearing a suit with flip-flops. Now, a suit is perfectly fine and flip-flops are great for the beach. But when you wear them together, something feels off. People will look at you and know that something isn't right, even if they can't quite explain why. I often hear people say they are going to have a fast shower. Now, I understand why you would say that. The word fast is a perfectly good synonym for quick. And in many languages, you only have one word for both. But to a native speaker, fast shower sounds like flip-flops with a suit. It just doesn't happen. The correct way to say it is quick shower. It's a small detail, but getting these partnerships right is the difference between sounding like a student and sounding like a local. Without them, even your most impressive words will end up feeling clunky and a bit off to a native speaker. Chapter 2, the make versus do trap. In many languages, there is only one verb for both make and do. This is a huge trap for learners because in English, we are very picky about which one we use. If you get this wrong, it's an immediate signal that you aren't a native speaker. It's one of those foundations that can make your English feel very shaky if it's not solid. I hear people say they need to do a decision. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? You are performing the action of deciding. But the correct partner is make a decision. Imagine a colleague. Let's call him Dave. If he's sitting in a meeting looking stressed, he might say, "We really need to make a decision on this project by Friday." If you were to say do a decision instead, you'd still be understood, but you would immediately sound less professional. I also often hear people say they are going to make their homework. I know it feels like you are creating the work, but that sounds like you're physically creating the paper and the ink from scratch in a factory. The correct way to say it is do your homework. That applies to most tasks that have been set for you by someone else. You are completing the work, not creating the concept. This applies to most chores too. You do the washing or do the dishes. It's about the process of completion. If you tell a Brit you made the dishes, they will think you are a very talented potter who made the plates out of clay. It completely changes the meaning of the sentence. I've also heard students say they are doing progress with their English. I mean, I'm always impressed by the fact they are improving, but the phrasing is off. The correct partner is making progress. Using the word make implies that something is being built or created over time. It suggests growth. If you're talking about your career, you might say, I feel like I'm finally making some progress in my new role. Then there is the classic error where people say they did a mistake. You might think it doesn't matter because the information is the same, but it's a partnership that never changes. The correct way to say it is made a mistake. If someone accidentally sends an email to the wrong person, they'll sigh and say, "Oh, I've made a mistake." Even if the mistake is huge, the verb is always make. Speaking of communication, I often hear people say they need to do a phone call. If you're in a restaurant and you need to step outside, you might say, "Excuse me, I just need to make a quick call." The correct partner is always make a phone call. Again, it's about the idea of initiating or creating a connection. You're making a link between you and the person on the other end of the line. Another common one is when people say they are going to do an appointment, but in English, you make an appointment. If Tracy is feeling a bit run down, she might say, I need to make an appointment with the GP. Using the word make here is the standard way to describe booking a specific time for a professional service. Now, for the final one in chapter 2, I hear people say they're going to do an effort. I know you're trying to say you'll work hard, but the correct partner is make an effort. If Thomas is struggling to meet a deadline, his manager might say, I really need you to make an effort to focus this afternoon. If you're finding this useful so far, please take a moment to follow and rate the show, as it really helps me create more content like this for you. Now, on to the next chapter. Chapter 3, Advanced Partnerships. Moving beyond make and do, there are some advanced partnerships you need to know. I often hear people say they want to make experience or do experience when they are describing their career, but the correct way to say it is gain experience. It's a much more sophisticated partnership. If Jasmine is applying for a new role, she might say, I'm really hoping to gain some experience in management. Using gain immediately raises the level of your English. I also hear so many people say they want to do a risk or make a risk. Now, I understand the logic, but in English, you take a risk. If Mark is thinking about quitting his job to start a business, Mary might say, it's a big leap, but I think you should take the risk. It's a very common phrase in both business and personal life. Using the word take implies that you're accepting the danger of the situation. Another one I often hear students say is that they are going to make a party. That sounds like they are physically building the room from scratch. The correct way to say it is have a party. If Charlie is turning 30, he might say, "I'm having a party on Saturday. You should come." You might also throw a party if you want to sound even more native, but have is the most common partner. Now it's time for a really common mistake. I always hear people talk about strong rain or heavy coffee. While we know what you mean, it sounds wrong to a native ear. We always say heavy rain. If you look out the window and it's pouring, you'd say this heavy rain is a nightmare. But when it comes to drinks, we say strong coffee. If Harry had a late night, you might say, "You look like you need a strong coffee this morning." If you mix these up and say heavy coffee, a Brit will probably give you a confused look. I hear people talk about high traffic or big traffic when the roads are busy, but in the UK, we always say heavy traffic. If Bob is late for work, he'll say, "Sorry I'm late. The heavy traffic really held me up this morning." I often hear people say they are going to close the light when they leave a room, but in English, we turn off the light. If you tell a Brit to close the light, they might look at the lamp and try to physically fold it. The correct partner is always turn off or switch off. Finally, let's look at the difference between having fun and making fun. This is a huge one because they mean completely different things. When you are having fun, you are enjoying yourself. If Billy says, "The kids are having fun at the birthday party," it means they are happy. But to make fun of someone means to tease or mock them. It's about joking at someone else's expense. If Chloe says, "Stop making fun of my new haircut," she's telling Peter to stop teasing her. Mixing these up can lead to some very awkward misunderstandings. So there you have it, the most common collocation errors and how to fix them. Stop writing down single words and start looking for these pairs. Tell me in the comments, which of these partnerships do you find the hardest to remember? Don't forget to take a moment to follow and rate the show, and remember, you can also sign up to my free newsletter. The link is in the description. Thanks so much for tuning in and supporting the show. I'll see you next time.